Thank you for joining us again. Now let's delve into our first topical issue, which is of course looking at the looming food crisis in Nigeria. Data from the World Bank shows that 40% of the food produced in Nigeria goes bad before getting to their final consumer. The 2021 Global Food Security Index ranks Nigeria as the 97th country in a cohort of 113 countries. Not the most flattering position, of course. In the index, food security was measured by considering its affordability, availability, quality, and exposure to climate change. Affordability and availability are both impacted by the total amount of food available. And there are two ways one can increase the amount of food available. One is to increase productivity, and the other is to cut down on waste. In order to achieve this, private sector players have been recognized to have the potential to contribute to more sustainable and equitable food systems. Now, the elephant in the room now is how to engage these private sector players to effectively tackle the looming food crisis in the country. And joining us to further highlight these issues is Khalil Woli, Associate. He is Energy and Infrastructure Analyst at Cardinal Stone. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Woli.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. Now, let's peel the first layer of this big elephant in the room. Let's understand the general role of private sectors in tackling food security in the country.
As we all know, government companies are basically, you always need the support of the private sector. And, private sector is quite important, really, from the germination stage of seed, to the growing of plant, and also the distribution, to the final consumer. Private sector has a business to play with.
Okay, well, talking about the private sector, it is of course integral to food systems when you talk about production and the vast majority of all the world's food. And we can talk about the diverse actors in that industry or that sector, the family farms community or cooperative groups of producers, multinational companies, and the rest of them who are key players in that particular sector. But what would you say has been the role that they have played, especially looking at the Nigerian system peculiarly?
Well, they played a major role, particularly in terms of research, in terms of improving yield, and also in terms of bringing things like fertilizer, things like farm tools, mechanized farm tools, if you may call it. This is way different from how we used to produce food here before, where it was subsistence farming. Farmers, individual farmers, just go court. But they're able to bring the technical know-how, they're able to bring farm mechanization, and they've tried to improve our crop yields.
But if all of these things you say are in place, why do we still have challenges with food crisis? Why are people still having to pay so much to get food to feed?
Well, sadly, despite all the solutions that they've created, we still have, our new elephant, and in this case, the poor supply chain we have. You will hear stories about it costs a lot more to transport food from the north to the south than from Europe to Nigeria. So it shows that, they are facing like insecurity and which kind of impact the transportation of food from one point in Nigeria to the other. So this all culminates into food insecurity, food unavailability, and spiking food prices.
Yes, but do you think that the sector is incapacitated in any way? For instance, you just mentioned transportation, and we know that there's a hike in the price of diesel, which of course has played or plays a key role in the transportation sector. Do you think that they are probably incapacitated in different ways, and that is why they're not able to meet the food need of the populace?
Oh yes, they are incapacitated. When we try to transport, as I mentioned, from north to south, then you see a lot of problems, they are stubborn, they are long, and things like that. There's so much that the private sector can do in that front. That's why, some parties will call that they feel like government not guaranteeing good enough routes, good enough situation for them to be able to do this.
But let's dive deeper into the challenges of this sector. What would you suppose are the major challenges aside transportation, which you just mentioned, of course?
Yeah, another issue that's plaguing the sector really, is in terms of the level of research and science that is being used to generate, in terms of crops and animal husbandry and things like that. I read a report where I think this is from an agricultural institute. Yeah, it basically said that Nigeria has one of the poorest families, crop yields in sub-Saharan Africa and also in the world. It just shows that in terms of how science has developed, in terms of mixing different breeds, different breeds of crops, different breeds of animals, that to generate the most optimal outcome. We are really lacking. We are really lacking on this front, basically.
But one of the key roles of these, private sector players is to ensure that food gets to the final consumers in good shape. But there is a big issue of food waste that is threatening the country's food security. And statistics reveals that for every 4 tomatoes harvested in Nigeria, we lose 3 to decay at some point between the farmer and the consumer, costing the country about $2.4 billion a year. How big a challenge is this when it comes to having storage facilities to prevent food wastage? We're talking about the looming food crisis in Nigeria and, of course, the role that private sector players can play to boost food security in the country. And, of course, we still have with us on the phone Khalil Woli. He is an energy and infrastructure analyst at Cardinal Stone. And, of course, he's been talking to us about the factors responsible for the looming food crisis in the country and the way out. Thank you for joining us again, Mr. Woli.
Thank you very much.
All right, so let's dwell more on the transportation sector, because that is one key role when it comes to, it plays a key role when it comes to moving goods from the farm to the consumers. And of course, we've seen the recent hike in fuel prices. We've seen the queues are back at the filling stations, causing a lot of gridlock, and consumers are having to face that hardship when it comes to transporting their goods and moving food from one place to the other. What are your thoughts on this? Why do we have to deal with this at this time?
Well, for me, we start the symptom of a larger problem. The government insistence on not regulating the petroleum sector. If we know every commodity has kind of went up, since COVID came, and then we had the Russian-Ukraine that has skyrocketed oil prices. But yet, the price of fuel remains the same. It's looking like the government can't control. Private owners are trying to say that they can't keep selling this thing at its current levels, and they have to increase the price of this product for them to even get a little markup on their on sales, basically. So the way I see it, in some of the larger problems that needs to be addressed more together.
All right, I think we're kind of finding it a bit difficult to hear you, Mr. Woli, so we'll just try to fix that, but that would be after this break. We'll come back and the conversation continues in earnest. Please stay with us.